Oh, wow. Hello there from Clark the Shark, 1-800-449-8255. And I'm about to review just one of the most amazing, greatest albums of rock and roll, the Kinks, 1974, Preservation Act 2, the Purple Album, with the cover showing Ray wearing that suit, that he wore on the tour. And the story of this album, just way ahead of its time. 1974, it's like it's describing 2023 and, 2018, 2016, Hillary, Trump, Putin, today's world, Ukraine, Zelensky, everybody, I mean, Mr. Flash versus Mr. Black. Just the genius of Ray Davies. The guy is so ahead of his time. And this album is so good that it just went right over most people's heads. They didn't even realize that this amazing rock opera, from 1974, most people don't even realize it was released at all. But there are a hell of a lot of people that do. And people like Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255, we know all about this album, Preservation Act 2, and of course, Preservation Act 1, the Yellow Album from 1973. And of course, the precursor to both, the Green Album from 1972, Everybody's in Showbiz, which is just an amazing album with just great songs. And of course, this rock opera, which begins with Preservation Act 1, really kind of this whole thing begins in 1968 with the Village Green, Preservation Society. These two albums are like an expansion upon that album. But this story really, I don't know, it just has nothing to do with the Village Green. Or maybe it does. But, when Ray's talking about Mr. Flash and Mr. Black and, socialism versus capitalism versus communism, it's just all these isms. It's so amazing. Ray Davies is genius. And I do consider these two separate albums. A lot of people want to say Preservation 1 is, side 1 and 2, and then this is 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it's a triple album, kind of like something Frank Zappa might do. But I don't think so. They're totally different albums, but they're talking about pretty much the same things. Mr. Flash, Mr. Black, that concept that Ray was trying so hard to, get across to the people. But I like this album more than Preservation Act 1. For me, the Kinks' Purple album is just probably the last great mid-period Kinks album or early Kinks. It's not really early Kinks, but, it ends a chapter, put it that way, because Soap Opera, which is really good, but it's really funny and weird. It's kind of like the Who Tommy. It's just so silly. But it's an amazing album from 1975, Soap Opera. But, I don't recommend that to most people. But if you're really smart and witty and clever and irreverent, you're going to dig it for sure. Frank Zappa would probably laugh his ass off at Soap Opera. But, David Bowie might dig it. But the average dude, smoking a joint, he ain't going to get it. But, just about anybody might get Preservation Act 2, 1974, this amazing double album by the Kinks. And it didn't sell at all, and it gets bad reviews. Now, so anybody that would give this album a bad review, obviously, doesn't have a clue, and they have no idea what they're talking about. Because this is not a 1 or 2 star album. And right away, on side one, you got Introduction to a Solution, When a Solution Comes, and Money Talks. Three great Kink songs. And, Shepherds of the Nation is just incredible. Like it's just so weird and politically incorrect and just I don't you're just confused by Ray. You're confused, and yet you're not confused at all. You totally get this album. And if you lock in and drink a cup of coffee and you're listening to the Purple album by the Kinks, and then, Scum of the Earth is amazing. But one of my favorite songs on this whole album is Secondhand Car Spiv, with the girls backing vocals. It's just such an amazing melodic song. It's incredible. And of course, the near hit for the Kinks, He's Evil, is a great song. Oh, I love that. And Mirror of Love is great. These announcements kind of trip up the album, but I kind of get them because you need them, to kind of explain the concept. They're kind of like the Who, Tommy. They're important. You got to have these little connector jingles. And of course, Nobody Gives, one of the greatest Kink songs in history. I love Nobody Gives. Great lyrics. Incredible. Ray Davies at his best. And Oh Where Is Love is really great. And love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. With the girls. I love it when the girls are singing on this. It's awesome. Flash's Dream and Flash's Confession. Both good, man. I mean, amazing. I mean, side 3 is just great, man. I love Nobody Gives and Flash's Confession. Awesome. And by now, this album is amazing. If you're still listening, Nothing Lasts Forever is just beautiful. But Artificial Man, we're talking about one of the greatest songs in rock and roll history. Certainly one of the greatest songs by the Kinks. Oh, it's so wonderful. The lyrics are so great. And Dave, is singing on it. Ray is singing on it. They're like taking turns. It's awesome. Scrap Heap City, of course. And more announcements. And Salvation Road has the main little connector, that little rock opera theme in the song. It's so great. And this album has repeat themes like the Who, Tommy, or like Frank Zappa, or one of those. It's just amazing. It kind of almost reminds me of the Tubes, Remote Control. Like, this is the first version of the Tubes. Like, I know Fee Waybill had to love Ray Davies and this album, because the Kinks, Preservation Act 2. This album is a classic, my friends. Epic, genius, great lyrics, great story, way ahead of its time. It literally talks about, 2016 when Trump was running against Hillary, Mr. Black, Mr. Flash. It's amazing. I mean, it's almost like socialism versus communism. But there's definitely capitalism. And the things happening in our society now with the high rent, with rhinos, like Mitt Romney owning buildings, and they want to make everyone pay $4,000 a month to live. And of course, then, illegal aliens and foreigners come to America, and 9 of them all live in an apartment. And, there's 9 people. Sure, they can pay $4,000 a month. And meanwhile, the real rank and file Americans get kicked out of California, and they have to go to other states where the rent's going up in states, where there's snow and or 100-degree heat. You have to go to Nevada, Vegas, and Phoenix, Arizona, and Utah, and Colorado to try to find a home because of what's happening in California, just the ripoff that's happening to all the citizens of America. And Donald Trump comes along and says, I'm for you, the working man. And really, Donald Trump, he